Sepher ha-Natsarim, Book of Kailedy, Chapter 1. The birth of Yehושע the Nazarite, who became our Adonai and interpreter of Elohim and the Torah, a worthy vessel for the greatest manifestation of the power of the Ruah Ha'Qodesh seen on earth, occurred in this manner. About the time Yochanan the forerunner commenced teaching the way of the wilderness beside Jordan, in the year before Herodes died, when Augustus Caesar ruled the Roman world, a babe was born. The father was Joseph, son of Heli, a carpenter of Galilee, and the mother Miriam, his wife, who had been a virgin pledged to Yehوa and the Haichel by her father Shimon, son of Joachim, son of Nathan, son of Eleazar. A decree had gone out that all who claimed kinship within the house of David should be gathered for enrollment at the city of David, called Bethlehem in Galilee. Therefore Joseph, being rightfully born into the stock of David, took the scroll of his parentage and went to Bethlehem so his kinship could be established. Now Miriam, being then heavy with child, longed in her heart to be among her kinsmen, and she prevailed upon Joseph to take her, for Bethlehem was only a day's journey from them. The two, with a servant, came to Bethlehem at eventide, but because so many had gathered, the inns were filled. Then, as Miriam's time was close upon her after the journey, a man took pity on her and provided a cave used as a stable. There the travelers found shelter and rest. That night Miriam's labors came upon her, and she suffered the pangs of childbirth and cried out in pain. Nearby some shepherds were tending sheep, for in the midst of so many strangers these needed protection, and hearing her cry, went to help. They provided a shepherd's basket which was filled with straw and placed it in the manger, and the newborn babe was wrapped in the clothes brought for him. After 8 days had elapsed, the child was named Yeshua, meaning one who delivers. For a messenger of Yahweh had appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, "That which lies within Miriam, your wife, is filled with the power of the Ruah Ha'Qodesh, and will respond to the hopes of men." Later, men called him Yehושע, and because he fulfilled their hopes and was anointed with the power of the Ruah Ha'Qodesh, he became acknowledged as HaMashiach. Now the stable was against a hill behind an inn where sages from the east were staying, men of Sastera, wise in the books of the Shamayim and of Nimrod, who carried the stake of fire. So Joseph sent for them, requesting they come and foretell the child's future, for such was the custom. One of these sages said, "It is strange indeed, for this child is born under no usual star, but under one that is a star in appearance only, and not in nature, having a power not in other stars. He is destined for greatness and will motivate events touching the lives of all men." When word of this was passed around, there was much excitement among those belonging to the house of David, and many, remembering the nevuah of Yochanan, for they had passed his way, wondered in their hearts, "Is this not he for whom we wait, the consolation of the Yahudim and deliverer of men?" This displeased the people of Bethlehem, who awaited another deliverer. When the sages spoke of the matter at their journey's end in Jerusalem, and word came of the excitement among those of the house of David in Bethlehem, there was great consternation among the Kohanim and learned men. They tried to discover where the babe was, but the sages answered deviously and said, "His star points towards the east." An elder of the house of David, attending the berakah of the child on the 8th day, lifted up his voice and declared, "Surely this is he who has been promised to redeem us out of the hands of evil. This is he upon whom the power of the Ruah Ha'Qodesh will descend, bestowing strength, compassion, and wisdom. Surely he will rule in the reign of Elohim." When the sovereign heard about these things, and that a babe had been born who, many claimed, was destined to be the deliverer, he was greatly disturbed and summoned the council. With the council were learned scribes and elders who disputed among themselves concerning the babe. Some said that while Yahweh's anointed would be born in Bethlehem, the deliverer would not, for the birth of Yahweh's anointed in that place had been foretold by the Nevi'im. Others said it might not be more than an enlightener who was expected to be born at that time. However, when many agreed that Yahweh's anointed and the deliverer might be the same person, the sovereign sent 3 men to discover the child. The dispute before the council had been long, and Joseph had been forewarned. So when the men sent by Herodes came to Bethlehem, Joseph had departed with his family. They went to the place where the kinsmen of Miriam lived. The men who came did not search long for Yehoshuah, for after the council had been dismissed, Herodes slew the son who sat with him on the throne, as he had slain others of his blood. Later, Herodes died himself, but after these happenings, the Romans did not bestow the title of sovereign on any Yehudi, and it was unlawful for any man to claim the title. In this manner, the nevuah was fulfilled which said, "A virgin shall give birth to a son, naming him Elohim with us. He will be the bearer of knowledge, discriminating between good and evil. But before this is given to the people, the land will lose its sovereigns." When time had passed, Joseph and Miriam came to Jerusalem and stayed at the house of a relative, a man strongly set against wrongdoing and well learned in the Torah. The 40 days having been accomplished for the purification of Miriam, she came to the Heichal, and Joseph offered the prescribed sacrifice and dedicated the child. Hearing from Joseph and Miriam the things which the sages had foretold about the child Yehoshuah, the devout man took the babe into his arms and praised Yahweh in this manner. "Because the things foretold have come about, your servant is prepared to depart in shalom. For my eyes have been gladdened by the deliverer of my people, a beacon light for others and the esteemer of your name. He will teach all men the ways of Yahweh, and how to walk in his paths. So swords shall be made into plowshares, and spears into billhooks, and shalom will reign over men." Joseph and Miriam could not understand the meaning of this, and asked what was meant, whereupon the man replied, "I hold a sapling which will grow into a sturdy tree, under the shade of which many nations will find shalom. Yet he will also test the strength of our people, tearing them apart in dispute. He comes as a separator, dividing the sheep from the goats, showing each his rightful place. He will place a sword in the hands of the weak and strengthen them, and the Belial will be smitten." After complying with the requirements of the Torah of the Kohanim, Joseph and Miriam returned with the infant to their home in Galilee, a small place in a hollow at the foot of a hillside. There the child grew up, developing a strong body and keen mind, for he was strangely talented. He was wise beyond his years and deft with his hands, and when old enough, he began learning the craft of plow-making. His parents, following the custom, went each year to Jerusalem for the festival of deliverance. And when Yehoshuah was 12, they went as usual, but this time taking him with them. Having remained the 7 days of the festival, Joseph and Miriam set off to return home, but let the boy linger in Jerusalem, for a kinsman of theirs was also returning, and they thought Yehoshuah was in his company. Having gone a day's journey and finding Yehoshuah was not with his kinsmen, they became perturbed, and at first light in the morning returned to Jerusalem. It was some time before they found Yehoshuah in a small outside room of the Heichal, sitting before an instructor of the Torah of the Kohanim. His parents were astonished at finding him accepted among learned men, and the teacher expressed amazement at the child's love of learning. But Miriam scolded the boy for his inconsideration, saying, "We have suffered much during the search for you." Yehושע replied, "Why search for me elsewhere, knowing I must concern myself with the work of my Father?" This saying disturbed the instructor. Neither could his parents understand the meaning of the reply, but they took the boy away with them. Henceforth he always obeyed his parents, but Miriam kept these things in the storehouse of her heart. As Yehושע grew up, his intelligence increased, and he was well liked by all, but he was a solitary child, much given to wandering. Sepher ha-Natsarim, Book of Kailedy, Chapter 2. Yosef died when Yehושע was a youth, at that time working as a craftsman among the Kenites. After Yehושע had been away a long time, he returned to the house of his brothers. One day, while he worked under the shade of a tree, they came to him and said, "Out in the wilderness by Yarden there is a man who cleanses people by immersion in water. He claims strange knowledge and calls himself the Forerunner. We are going to see what he teaches." Yehושע said, "I have heard of these things, and surely as the son of our forefather Yeshua prayed to be cleansed of his secret faults and presumptions, the sons of our father should not stand aloof from cleansing. I will go with you." The brothers of Yehושע said, "This man is called Yochanan. He heralds the coming of an enlightener who will be an all-wise instructor in goodness. He himself does not bear this new light which will dispel the darkness in men's minds. He tells of one who will grant men the privilege of becoming children of Elohim, awakening to eternal Chai, that part within them not born of earthly desires." So Yehושע and his brothers went out seeking Yochanan, finding him beside the Yarden at the place of crossing where there was a pool. The hairs on the head of Yochanan were already white. Yochanan, seeing Yehושע among those gathered about him, said, "Look, all of you, here he is, a man in whom there is no guile, the true Lamb of Elohim, the one we await. For Sethel, sending me forth to immerse, instructed me thus: when you discover a man worthy to be the receptacle of the Ruah Ha'Qodesh in abundance, the same shall you acknowledge as the enlightener." Hearing these words, Yehושע joined with those to be cleansed. But when he stood before the Forerunner in the water, Yochanan said, "You have greater powers of cleansing than I, yet you come to me." Yehושע replied, "The power to cleanse and revitalize with the Ruach is not in men, but in the Ruach which fills man. It is important each should be allowed to do whatever he is called upon to do." Yehושע asked of Yochanan, "What do you know about me?" Yochanan said, "Years gone by, I had a vision of 3 lights of the Shamayim, and as the sun sank, so they rose. A flame of fire went up over Yerushalayim, and smoke filled the Haikel, and a star fell down into Yehuda. The meaning I know, for it was this: the deliverer is born, and woe unto the house of Herodes. Woe to you, scribes, and your interpretations of the Torah. The star that appeared and stood over Yerushalayim was a child planted into Bethlehem from out of the heights of the Shamayim, as was foretold, and it was Navu, he would be the deliverer. The fire that burned was the fire of a strange altar. I never great things for you. You are the true Bên of Elohim. Soon you will see the esteem of the Shamayim revealed, and the power of the Ruah Ha'Qodesh will be poured out upon you as a stream of pure water. The time has come to proclaim yourself. Shalom, shalom on you whom our Elohim has chosen as his messenger, for you will proclaim the true Besorah. Strengthen your heart, for the road ahead is steep and stony. No man is hated so much as one who tries to point out defects in character and attitudes and seeks to guide men along the path of right and beneficial living. Then Yochanan took Yehושע down to the river and immersed him, and he was overshadowed by the Ruah Ha'Qodesh and became fully filled with its power. So his face glowed, and the people wondered and were bewildered, for they did not understand. Yet the face of their forefather Moshe had also glowed after he had been in the presence of the Ruah Ha'Qodesh of Yahweh. Yochanan said, "Go and wait upon the mountainside nearby." Later, Yochanan went to join Yehושע and told him that he was the anointed one, but should not yet make this known to the people. Then Yochanan prayed thus: "We give thanks, O Yahweh, with souls purified through realization of our misdeeds and ruachot reaching upward to commune with you. It is by your power alone we have seen the light of truth manifested and come to know the secret of your hidden name. In humility, we call you by the name of Father, because you have shown us a father's compassion and kindness, and because we know you chastise and discipline us after the manner of a father. You have granted us freedom of activity that we may enjoy the berakah of Chai. We have been saved by the waters of your affection. We approach you as the only good and great being, asking only that we be united with you in the waters of the Ruach and never become separated from the source of Chai." This is how Yochanan testified concerning these events. On that day, the Ruach outflowing from Elohim came with a great surge of power. I did not know this man from others, but seeing him, I recalled what I had been told by those who gave me power to cleanse with water. They had said, "When you find someone so filled with the power of the Ruah Ha'Qodesh, he can hardly contain it. You will know him for one who will immerse with the cleansing power of the Ruah Ha'Qodesh. I have experienced this power and testify that this man is the true Bēn of Elohim, the enlightener and deliverer." Yochanan left Yehושע on the mountainside, where he stayed 3 days fasting and communicating with the powers above. Then he went back to the riverside. Yochanan was standing with 2 of his Talmidim, Yehושע was sitting apart, and Yochanan said to those with him, "There is the one giving himself as an offering of Elohim, the enlightener of the world and the deliverer of our people." Then the 2 Talmidim went to Yehושע and said, "Tell us about your teachings. Shall we follow your way or that of Yochanan?" Yehושע said, "There is the way of the wilderness, and there is my way, alike in teaching, but calling to different men. What Yochanan teaches accords with the Torah, even as my teaching. Obey either or both. They are the Torah." From that day forth, Yehושע had power to heal the sick and to do many things, but he went out into the wilderness bordering Yarden, uncertain about his next move. While there, hungry and thirsty, he fought with the flesh, resisting the temptation to go down among the habitations of men and use his powers for selfish ends. The same Ruach of Yahweh which overshadowed Yehושע overshadowed the creation. It enlightens outer darkness and bestows Chai and is eternal. Yochanan was one of those who can see the ruachot of men, and so he knew the nature of Yehושע. These things took place at Beth Araba, which means the place of crossing.